The day had started like any other. She woke up early, helping her mom with breakfast, tying her shoelaces, and quietly thinking about the small party she was going to attend later that day. It was a casual gathering, a mix of neighbors, colleagues, and a few families from the community. She had been excited, mostly because she wanted to spend time with her friends, but also nervous. She knew some people there judged others based on wealth, family, or social status. Her mom, on the other hand, didn't care much about such things. She always carried herself with quiet confidence. Her life had been hard, working long hours as a maid to provide for her daughter. She had never asked for pity or praise, just a little respect, which sometimes was hard to find. When they arrived, the room was buzzing with chatter and laughter. People were talking, children were playing, and the smell of freshly cooked food filled the air. She held her mom's hand tightly, feeling the warmth and comfort in that simple gesture, and then he appeared. He was someone she had seen before, a boy from school, always laughing at others, always trying to seem superior. He noticed her mom immediately. A cruel smile spread across his face. Before she could even say hello, he said it out loud, loud enough for a few people nearby to hear, "Your mom's just a maid. She can't sit with mine." Her heart stopped. She felt her stomach drop. Her face burned not with shame, but with shock and anger. People around them froze for a moment, unsure how to react. Some looked uncomfortable. Others whispered to each other. But the words had hit her like a punch. Her mom remained calm. She smiled faintly, almost as if she were saying, "It's okay, let it slide." But she could see the hurt in her eyes. That small, gentle smile didn't erase the sting, but it showed her strength. For a second, she wanted to run, to hide, to escape the embarrassment. She felt the urge to shout back, to defend her mom, to make him regret his words. But then she realized something important: anger wouldn't solve anything. She didn't need to match his cruelty. What mattered most was standing beside her mom, showing her love and support. Slowly, she reached out and held her mom's hand. The warmth of her mom's hand reminded her of everything they had been through together: the long nights, the sacrifices, the tears, and the laughter. She realized that no words could ever change the love and respect she had for her mom. The boy laughed, a loud, mocking laugh, thinking he had won. But she didn't move. She didn't flinch. She didn't let him see that he had hurt her. Instead, she squeezed her mom's hand gently, a silent message: "I'm with you. I'm proud of you." A tense silence followed. Some people glanced at them, curious. Others looked away, unsure of what to do. The boy continued to smirk, clearly enjoying the moment. But she noticed something subtle. A few of the adults in the room were frowning. They had seen the cruelty in his words and the dignity in her mother's calm posture. She took a deep breath, feeling a strange mix of fear and determination. She knew this was just the beginning. The boy's words had not just insulted her mom, they had challenged her courage, her patience, and her strength. She had to respond in a way that mattered, not with anger, but with dignity. As she held her mom's hand, she whispered quietly, almost to herself, "No one can take away our dignity. No one can make me feel small when I stand with you." At that moment, a small spark of courage lit up inside her. She knew that what she did next would define not just this encounter, but also the bond she had with her mom. And the people around them were beginning to notice. The room felt heavier now, charged with anticipation. Everyone was waiting to see what she would do. Would she let the insult slide? Would she stand up for her mom? Or would she give in to the fear that had been building inside her? That moment, when she held her mom's hand and faced him silently, was the first step in a journey she would never forget. It was the beginning of a story about courage, love, and the strength that comes from standing by the people who matter most. And it all started with one cruel sentence: "Your mom's just a maid." Asterisk, the boy's laugh echoed in her ears. It was mocking, loud, and meant to make her feel small. She could feel the eyes of the people around them, some curious, some judgmental. Her mom squeezed her hand lightly as if to say, "Stay calm, you're doing fine." That little gesture gave her courage. She straightened her back, lifted her chin slightly, and looked the boy in the eye. He smirked, clearly expecting her to be embarrassed or run away. But she didn't. Instead, she held her mom's hand a little tighter. The warmth of her mother's hand felt like armor, protecting her from the sting of his words. At that moment, she realized something important. Strength wasn't about shouting or fighting back. It was about standing firm with dignity. "Is there something wrong?" she asked quietly, but with enough firmness that her voice carried across the room. It wasn't loud or aggressive, but it was enough to catch the attention of others. The boy's smirk faltered slightly. He hadn't expected her to respond calmly. He looked around nervously, realizing that some of the adults were now staring at him disapprovingly. Her mom nodded, almost imperceptibly, and gave her a small, encouraging smile. She could feel her mother's pride radiating through the touch of her hand. All those years of watching her mom work hard, sacrifice, and never complain, they were all worth this moment. She was proud of her mom, and she wanted the world to see it. The boy opened his mouth, probably to say something cruel again, but she didn't let him speak. Instead, she continued, "My mom has worked her entire life to give me the best she could. She may be a maid, yes, but she's also the strongest, kindest, and most loving person I know, and no one's words can change that." A hush fell over the room. People started to whisper to each other, impressed by her calm but firm response. The boy's laughter faded, replaced by a slight unease. He wasn't used to being challenged, especially not in front of an audience. The confidence in her voice, the way she stood by her mom, had shifted the energy in the room. She could see that some of the kids who had been laughing along with him were now quiet. Others seemed unsure where to look. Even a few adults nodded subtly, acknowledging the courage it took to stand up without aggression. Her mom's eyes glistened. She didn't say anything aloud, but the silent message was clear. "I am proud of you. You are my strength, too." Holding her mom's hand now felt heavier, in a good way. It wasn't just about comfort anymore. It was about solidarity, love, and courage. The boy tried one more time. "You think you're better than me?" He sneered, but this time his voice lacked conviction. He was struggling because he realized that his words no longer had power over her. She looked at him calmly and said, "It's not about being better. It's about respecting people for who they are, not what they do for a living." The room seemed to hold its breath. A few people nodded quietly, as if relieved someone had finally spoken up. Even some of the boy's friends looked at him, frowning, realizing he had gone too far. The air was tense, yet there was a strange sense of justice forming. She squeezed her mom's hand again, a silent promise. "No matter what anyone says, I will always stand with you." That simple act of holding her mom's hand had become more than comfort. It was a declaration of loyalty and love. It was a message that no one could ignore, and just as she thought the moment had passed, she noticed something unexpected. The boy's smirk was gone. His eyes darted around the room, and he looked smaller somehow, as if the weight of his words had finally caught up to him. For the first time, he wasn't laughing. He was facing the reality that courage and love could not be mocked. The whispers around them grew louder. People were talking about the situation, not in a mean way, but in admiration. Some adults even stepped closer, subtly showing support. She realized that standing by her mom wasn't just about defending her, it was about inspiring others. Showing that love and dignity always win over mockery, she looked down at her mom and whispered softly, "I'm with you, always." Her mom smiled warmly, holding her hand back, and at that moment she understood the power of that small gesture. Holding hands had become a symbol of strength, courage, and unshakable love. And just like that, the first crack appeared in the boy's arrogance. But she knew this wasn't over. The journey was just beginning, and the next moments would test their courage even further. The room had grown quiet, the air thick with tension. For the first time, the boy looked uncertain. The laughter that had once filled his voice was gone, replaced by hesitation. He had expected fear or embarrassment, but instead, he had met something he couldn't break. Quiet courage. She glanced down at her mom. Her mother's eyes were calm but proud. There was no shame, no apology, just the dignity she had carried all her life. She remembered all the mornings she had woken up to her mom preparing breakfast before sunrise, working long hours just to make sure she had a roof over her head and a chance at a better life. All the small sacrifices, the unspoken love, the quiet strength, it had all led to this moment. The boy tried once more, a weaker attempt at mockery. "You think your mom is better than mine?" he said, though now his voice sounded unsure. She took a deep breath, feeling every word she was about to say with certainty. "It's not about being better," she said calmly. "It's about respect. My mom has worked her whole life to give me what I have. She doesn't need anyone's approval, and neither do I. What you say doesn't change that." Her words rippled through the room. Some of the boy's friends looked down, embarrassed. The adults whispered to one another, nodding subtly. Even other children watched, curious and quiet. For the first time, the boy felt the weight of his words. He realized that his attempt to humiliate her had failed and that he could not undo the pride and love between her and her mom. Then something remarkable happened. One of the adults in the room, someone who had been watching silently, stepped forward. "Everyone deserves respect," the adult said gently but firmly. "No one should be judged for their work or their background. Actions and character matter more than titles or status." The boy's face turned red. His arrogance had begun to crumble under the weight of quiet dignity and social awareness. The whispers in the room grew louder, not mocking but supportive. People were beginning to notice the courage she showed by simply standing beside her mom and speaking the truth. She looked down at her mom and smiled softly. She could see the pride in her mother's eyes, pride not only in herself, but in her child. They had shared so much together, from the smallest acts of love to the hardest days, and now that bond had grown even stronger. She realized that courage was not about fighting or shouting, it was about standing firm for what was right. Even when no one else would, the boy opened his mouth to say something else. But she held up a hand slightly, signaling calm. "It's okay," she said quietly. "We don't need to argue. I'm proud of my mom, and that's enough." The room seemed to breathe in unison. The tension eased slightly. Even the boy's friends began to step back, some avoiding eye contact. He finally muttered something under his breath and turned away. Defeated not by force but by dignity and truth, she squeezed her mom's hand gently, feeling the warmth and connection more deeply than ever. That small gesture had become a statement of love, loyalty, and courage. It had turned an awkward, painful moment into one of quiet triumph. As they stood together, the whispers of admiration began to grow. People approached her mother with subtle nods and kind words, acknowledging the strength and humility she had always carried. Others looked at her, seeing not just a child defending a parent, but a person with courage, love, and heart. And through it all, she realized something important. Life wasn't about proving yourself to cruel people. It was about standing tall, holding your loved ones close, and showing respect to those who deserve it. The boy's attempt to humiliate them had failed, and in doing so, it had highlighted the strength of their bond. She looked once more at her mom, whispering softly, "We did it. We showed them what matters." Her mom smiled, holding her hand back firmly. No words were needed. The shared understanding between them was enough. Love and respect had triumphed over cruelty, yet, deep down, she knew that this was not the end. Life would continue to challenge them, to test their courage and love in different ways. But she also knew that as long as they faced the world together, no insult, no mockery, and no cruelty could ever break them. And so, holding her mom's hand, she felt a quiet but powerful certainty. This was just the beginning of a story they would remember forever, a story of dignity, courage, and the unshakable bond between a mother and child. The room slowly returned to normal, though the tension still lingered in the air. People whispered quietly among themselves, some impressed, some thoughtful, realizing the power of what had just happened. She and her mom stayed standing, holding hands, a quiet symbol of courage and love that no one could ignore. As they walked toward a quieter corner, she thought about everything that had just happened. The boy's cruel words, the mocking laughter, and the way he had tried to humiliate her mom. All of it could have left her feeling small, but instead she felt strong. She realized that true strength didn't come from shouting or trying to hurt someone else. It came from love, respect, and courage. Her mom squeezed her hand gently, as if sensing her thoughts. You did well, she whispered. I'm proud of you. Not because you spoke, but because you stood by me. Those words warmed her heart. She thought about all the times her mom had been there for her, helping her with homework, comforting her after a bad day, working tirelessly so they could have a better life. And now, after all those years of quiet sacrifice, it felt like the world had finally seen a small glimpse of her mom's strength. She reflected on the boy, too. His cruelty hadn't vanished entirely, but it had lost its power. Words could hurt, yes, but they could never break the bond they shared. She realized that people who try to make others feel small are often insecure themselves, and their insults say more about them than about the person they're trying to hurt. Walking through the room, she noticed that some of the other children, who had initially giggled at the boy's words, now looked thoughtful. A few came over, shyly offering kind smiles to her mom. Even the adults seemed to respect her courage. It was a small victory, but it mattered. It showed that standing up quietly and firmly could inspire others. Even if no one else was shouting or making a big scene, her mom looked at her, eyes soft but proud. You've learned an important lesson today, she said. Life isn't about proving yourself to cruel people. It's about knowing who you are, loving your family, and treating others with respect, no matter what they say. Those words stayed with her. She thought about all the times she had felt embarrassed or judged, the times she had worried about what others thought. Now she understood that respect and dignity weren't given by others, they were earned by the way you live your life. By the way you love and support the people who matter most. As the day went on, she noticed small changes around her. People who had been critical or dismissive earlier seemed quieter, more thoughtful. Some approached her and her mom to offer kind words, smiles, and even apologies for their earlier behavior. It was a reminder that courage and kindness could have a ripple effect, changing not just one moment, but also the way people think and act. She held her mom's hand a little tighter, feeling a sense of pride she had never felt before. This moment, small as it might seem to others, had become a turning point. It wasn't about defeating someone else, it was about standing tall, protecting the people you love, and showing that dignity and courage are stronger than mockery. Before leaving, she took one last look around. The boy had gone, and though he hadn't apologized, she didn't feel anger anymore. She felt peace, knowing that she and her mom had faced cruelty together and come out stronger. As they stepped outside into the fresh air, she whispered to her mom, I'll always stand by you, no matter what anyone says. Her mom smiled, holding her hand tightly. And I'll always be here for you, she said. That day, she learned something she would never forget. Life is full of challenges, some small, some big. People may try to put you down, insult you, or make you feel less than you are. But as long as you have love, courage, and the willingness to stand by those who matter most, nothing can truly harm you. And in that quiet, powerful moment, she understood the truth of her mom's life. Dignity and love are worth far more than wealth, status, or cruel words. As they stepped outside, the warm sunlight felt like a gentle reward for the courage they had shown. The air seemed lighter, the tension from inside the room fading away. She glanced at her mom, still holding her hand, and felt a wave of gratitude and love. This day had been difficult, but it had also been a moment of triumph for both of them, walking together. She reflected on everything that had happened, the boy's mocking words, the stares, the whispers, and most importantly, the courage it had taken to stand firm. She realized that this small act of love and support had made all the difference. She had shown her mom that she would always be there, and in return, her mom had shown her the power of quiet strength. They found a bench in a quiet corner of the garden, sitting down together. Her mom looked at her with soft eyes. You were very brave today, she said gently. Not because you argued or shouted, but because you stayed calm and stood by me. That's real strength. She smiled, squeezing her mom's hand. I just wanted to make sure you knew I'm proud of you, she replied. And I'm not afraid to show it. Her mom's smile deepened, and for a moment everything felt perfect. It wasn't about winning or proving something to anyone else. It was about love, respect, and the unbreakable bond between them. That bond had grown stronger through every hardship they had faced, and now it had been tested in public and passed with flying colors. As they sat there, she noticed other people walking by. Some of the adults who had been at the gathering smiled at them. Some of the children waved shyly. Even the boy who had mocked them earlier had left, and she felt no anger toward him. Instead, she felt peace, knowing that cruelty had no power over someone who is loved and supported. She thought about all the lessons she had learned today. Life would continue to test them. There would be challenges, criticism, and people who didn't understand. But as long as they faced it together, nothing could truly hurt them. Courage, love, and dignity were far stronger than insults, fear, or social pressure. Her mom leaned back, taking a deep breath. "Remember," she said softly, "people may try to judge you or put you down, but the most important thing is how you treat others and how you stand up for the ones you love. That's what really matters in life?" She nodded, letting the words sink in. It was more than a lesson, it was a promise. She promised herself that she would always defend her mom and anyone she loved with kindness and courage. She promised to never let cruel words make her feel small. And she promised to carry the strength she felt today with her, wherever life took her. As they walked home together, hand in hand, the bond between them felt unshakable. The world outside could still be cruel at times, but they had proven to themselves that love and courage always shine brighter. Every step they took together reminded her of the power of standing beside someone you love. No matter the circumstances, that night as she reflected on the day, she felt a sense of peace and fulfillment she hadn't experienced before. She had faced cruelty, stood by her mom, and found courage she didn't know she had. She realized that life isn't about avoiding hardship, it's about how you face it, and how you protect the people who matter most. Her mom hugged her tightly before bed, whispering, "I'm proud of you, today and always." She hugged her back, feeling a warmth that went beyond words. In that embrace, she knew something undeniable. Courage and love are not loud or flashy, they are quiet, steady, and unbreakable. And as she drifted off to sleep, she thought to herself, no matter what anyone says, no one can take away our dignity, our love, or our courage. Together we are unstoppable. It was more than just a lesson learned, it was a lifetime of understanding distilled into a single, unforgettable day. And she knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, she and her mom would always face them together, hand in hand.